Hello. Today I'm doing a video about listening to your inner guidance and resonance and how the universe or God or whatever your beliefs are, how things get mirrored back to you and messages come into you when you're really willing to listen and ready to hear what those messages are. So I'm going to tell a little story. I don't know if you guys can see that it's super windy here. We're having Santa Ana winds, and it was so windy that my dog was howling. I think he was afraid when I came home, but um, it's kind of exciting and electric. I was shocking myself when I was out shopping. So, anyway, I'm telling a story about a date night I had with my husband where we went out. We don't get to go out that often. We have young children, and we wanted to take advantage of a night where they were sleeping over at the grandparents' house. So we went to a new restaurant that I had read about, and it's called Menya Ultra. I don't know if you guys know. It was a winner in Japan at the ramen international ramen competitions a few years in a row. And we were lucky enough that they opened a couple locations here in San Diego because they don't have them all over the states or anything like that. It's based in Japan, but they make their own noodles and very authentic ramen and other kinds of Japanese food like the karaji chicken. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but it's the Japanese style fried chicken. It's unbelievable. So it was our first night going there, and there's an online wait list. Like, you have to go digitally and sign on, and then you go and you wait until your name is called. And so we went through all that, and my husband said, let's get some sake because it's date night. And, we don't drink very often with our demanding lifestyle with young children. And we were trying to let loose a little bit. And I'm always a bit hesitant when it comes to alcohol because, in our younger years, we would party a lot and get ourselves into trouble sometimes. As I've grown, I've learned that, my hormonal system isn't the same as my husband's. Women have different hormones than men, and alcohol can sometimes have like a really negative effect, and it can be just not fun. The whole idea is to drink and have a little fun, and it can just have the opposite effect. So I decided to indulge with him, and it was just so much fun at the restaurant. We were having a blast, trying all the new foods and really getting into it and having the sake, and felt like we were letting loose. So when we got home, my mom, who had my kids, had been hanging up there, getting the sunshine. She said we had left something at home that they needed for overnight. And so we don't live too far away. And they had been just getting ready for bed when we got home. So I said, well, I'm just going to run over to her house with it. And we hadn't had so much drink that it was a problem to drive. Like, we just had a little drink with dinner. And my husband said, well, I'll go with you and keep you company. So I thought, oh, that was so sweet, date night. And we decided to bring our dog, too, who you just saw jump up, Romeo, because he'd been alone and he loves going on little drives. So as we start driving over to my mom's, Romeo has a habit of wanting to climb into my lap in the car, which is difficult for driving, as you can imagine. So I asked my husband, can you hold him? Can you give him some support? Like, he doesn't feel in the car that he's supported when he, if I brake and he starts flying all over the place. That's why he wants to get on my lap, because he knows I'm gonna give him a hug and make him feel like he's not gonna fly around. And we started kind of bickering over whether or not my husband was holding him in a way that was appropriate, because since I'm the driver, I don't want him to have to keep trying to come onto my lap. And my husband was like, he's fine, I'm holding him fine. So we end up getting into a bit of an argument about it, and I don't know if we had had the sake, if things would have escalated that way. I think perhaps it would have gone a different way, but it's hard to say because, alcohol is a hit to the vibration of your cellular structure, and it can kind of negatively impact, bringing you down in vibration. So I could have let it go, but I was getting really frustrated and not letting it go in that case. And he kind of doubled down and wouldn't let it go either. At one point, I said to him, um, like, I can see your point, to try to kind of mitigate the argument. And then he used that as an opportunity to kind of like shove his point down my throat, make it, yeah, you were wrong, and let me tell you all the reasons that you're wrong. So that really shut me down, because I thought, well, I'm trying to throw you a bone here, but I don't really feel like I'm totally wrong. And now you're just attacking me. So this is the first part of the story. That experience kind of has led me to dive deeper into the wound of judgment. So I know a lot of people talk about like mother wounds, father wounds, childhood wounds, abandonment issues, and those are all pretty prevalent in our modern world. But I hadn't really heard this concept until recently of the wound of judgment, where your window of tolerance for judgment isn't very large, because it's sort of related to the childhood and the parent wounds, where you maybe felt that you were constantly being judged in childhood. And my family lineage, my husband was raised in the Catholic Church as an altar boy, and so was my father. So even though I wasn't raised with religion, I think the Catholic religion, in my experience with my family members, has gone too far in terms of everything being very critical and judged, and God will judge you, and you need to repent for your sins and all this. And so I really respect the religions in some ways. I do think that holding standards of judgment can be useful, and standards of discernment can be useful. Repenting and asking for forgiveness and reconciling within yourself where your own judgment about yourself lies is really useful. However, I think if it's done in a way that is more than the person can handle, it becomes, people seem to shut down, and then there's no room for examination anymore, because you go into the mode of apathy. My husband admits this. He says, apathy is easier. I'm not going to engage all this judgment. And I get why, So in that moment, his judgment wounds were being triggered, and then he was triggering my judgment wounds. And so our window of tolerance for the conversation just, went to zero. So we're kind of bickering all the way home from my parents' house, and we get home, and I'm like, I need to get out of here. I need to get out of your presence. And so I decided to go for a short drive. And I drive around the city all the time, like with baby sleeping in the car, just to get a little break, listen to music or a podcast, something. It's really nice to me to kind of breathe and have some space in my car. So I jumped in my car and I went off down the road. But I was holding on to my frustrations and my anger. I wasn't allowing that to wash over me and like pass through. I was really stuck in that judgment trigger and frustrated and angry and inflamed from like the heavy meal and the alcohol and all the things that we'd consumed on the date night. So instead of going home and having like a nice, sexy, romantic time with my husband and like really enjoying and valuing our time together, which is very limited when it comes to our private time, we end up like separating energetically, and I go off in the car. But I didn't expect it to be for long, and I thought I'd come home kind of regrouped, but that's not how it went. So I'm driving along, and I have a pretty new car, and suddenly I'm changing freeways. I'm on a freeway ramp changeover, and I feel I blow a tire. And for a second I think, well, maybe I didn't blow a tire. Maybe I just hit something or whatever. And then suddenly on the screen it pops up like tire pressure low. So I'm thinking, okay, I definitely blew a tire. Okay, so I pull over on the side of a very busy freeway, and I'm off of, I'm like right next to an intersection that is kind of known to be a rough area of town, like not an area of town I ever go or would want to be stuck alone at night. And I'm on the side of this very busy freeway in the dark. It's not, like I said, not a great area, so it's not well lit. There's not much around really. And so I'm thinking, okay, so I look for my phone, but at the same time I hear, God or my consciousness or my higher self. I hear this voice saying, what are you going to do now? What are you going to do? You going to call Steven, your husband, to bail you out like you always do? You're just going to call for help? Like, what are you going to do? You don't know what to do. And I thought, okay, well, it's fine. I have AAA. Like, I have a spare tire in my car. I can call AAA and get them to come tow my car. So I realized in my, huff of emotion that I charged out of the house with, I hadn't brought my phone. So I thought, shit, okay, I don't have my phone. I don't have a flashlight because I'm not prepared anymore. Everyone has a flashlight on their phone. We kind of rely on the phones for all these things. So I'm like, okay, what do I do? I thought, well, I can change this tire. I've changed tires in cars. I know how to do this. I'm not helpless. So there's no manual in my car though, because we don't keep manuals anymore because we rely on it. The phone will have the manual or the internet will have the manual. So I don't have any internet. I don't have a phone. And I'm thinking, okay, well, I'm just going to look in the back. I know where the spare is. I know where like this stuff is. I'm going to go into my trunk, pull everything out, and I'm going to figure this out. After a moment of thinking, well, maybe someone will stop and help me. Maybe a policeman will stop. And I'm thinking, yeah, well, how long am I going to wait here for that? So let's just see what I can do. So I start looking at all of the supplies for my tires, and I know that there's a key in the glove box to unlock things, and I get that far. But then I can't even literally just figure out how to get the tire out of where it's stored in the trunk. I get to a certain point and then I'm just stuck. And it's dark. All these cars are flying past me on the freeway. And I'm thinking, okay, this is not going to work. I could sit here all night waiting for help. I don't know. These seem like bad choices. So what I finally decided to do is get into my car and slowly put on my emergency blinkers and slowly drive on the flat tire, which I know is super dangerous and a huge risk. Slowly drive off because I'm right on this exit basically. If I can just get off the exit, there's probably a gas station I can just pull into and then call for help. So luckily there was a beautifully well lit, nice open gas station. And I pull in and I'm looking at my tire and I'm like, oh my God, I'm panicking. I'm like, I've ruined my, axle or whatever it is, the rims. I don't know what I've ruined on my car, that you're not supposed to do this, not supposed to drive on a flat. But anyway, it was not very far. I got there, I parked, and I saw there was a payphone in the parking lot. So I decided to go into the gas station and just ask the guy that's working the cash register to call AAA for me. And so I walk in and I tell him, I have a flat and I don't have a phone, so can you help me? Call for help. And he looks at me with this face of like, hell no, I'm not going to help you. And he says, we don't have a phone. I said, okay, well, does that payphone in the parking lot work? Because I saw there's a payphone and I could get change and use it. And he's like, I don't know if it works. And I said, okay, well, I'm not going to be leaving until you call for help because I have a flat and I don't have a phone and I need someone to call for help. So I'll be here the rest of the night, I guess, hanging with you. So he starts to kind of take me more seriously and he says, okay, well, ma'am, I can see if you can use the phone for the gas station, but they turn it off at night because my colleague often sits all night chatting on it. So I know during his shifts, the owner doesn't let him use it because they're watching us on the video camera right now. So I said, okay. So I start using the phone and it does work, luckily. And I said, well, I need the number for AAA. I don't have my AAA card with me. Like, I'm so not prepared. So he agrees on his cell phone to look up the number for AAA for me. So I call AAA and they say that they'll have somebody there, within an hour or whatever. And usually AAA is really fast. Like, we're in the city, so usually it takes maybe 20 minutes. I figured they'll be there pretty soon. I tried calling my husband, but he didn't answer because, it's an unknown number. And so I said, okay, I'm just going to wait outside. So as I'm sitting there, I started thinking about how he said, like, the owner is watching on the video camera all the time. I also asked him, what would happen if I leave the car overnight and then pick it up in the morning? Would you tow it? And he said, no, I can tell my boss because he's watching on cameras, and I can tell him you told me and that you'll pick it up in the morning, and no one will tow it. And I was like, okay, thank you. So I'm standing outside for a while because I expect, like I said, the tow truck to come pretty soon. And I'm watching and I'm thinking, this is an intense business that's being run here. This guy is going to be here all night. He says his shift ends at 5 a.m. So thank God the gas station was open, right? Like, God threw me a bone there and got a little break. And I could have called a friend or my dad or somebody like that, but I just kind of felt like God wanted me to learn my lesson here. Like, you need to sit and you need to watch what I'm about to show you so that you can really learn your lesson and not allow yourself in this vibrational place next time. So I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, this place is well lit. There are cameras all over, lighting all over. It's really clean. The convenience store is really well stocked. The guy even offered me a cup of coffee, but there was like a bunch of food. It was nice considering I know what part of town we're in. And like, to have this place open all night, not all gas stations are like open at night. Usually a lot of them close at 10 or something, or the convenience store closes. And it was beautifully well lit. And I'm thinking, I wonder what it's like running this kind of a business. I mean, it's an intense business and they're doing a great job. So I thought, okay, I'm really lucky to be here, and I'm just going to sit and I'm going to observe. And again, I kind of hear that like laughing, like, ha 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 ha, you poor little whiny fool. Here you are, not having a good date night at this gas station. And so as it turns out, the tow truck doesn't end up coming for like an hour and a half, and by then it's like 10:30. So I'm stuck there a while. Even at one point, a tow truck drove by that I was like, yay! Oh, no, I guess that's not for me. And I was stuck there another 45 minutes after that. So I see so many people come to this gas station, clearly not doing well in life, right? I see people that their cars, I don't even know how their car is running. Like, I can see the interior is completely gutted. The person can't open the door because there's no handle. It looks like it's just about to fall apart like a tin can. And people are clearly, on some heavy drugs, crackhead type people, like prostitutes, obviously, half naked people, homeless people, just all sorts of what my mom used to call low-life people, like people who are not living in a way, they're barely surviving, right? They're not living how I live. They're not living how anybody I know is living. It was grim, to say the least. And so it kind of gave me the bigger picture of why this guy in the beginning that was working there wouldn't help me. And I was watching him handle all of this energy, all of these crazy people that wanted so much from him, wanted free things, wanted him to deliver things to the parking lot for them. At times, once it was after 10 o'clock, he said, I'm going to lock the door now and I only work through the window. And you could see why. I mean, I was kind of nervous at any moment. Would there be like a drive-by shooting? Would there somebody come rob the place? Or just some mental case, because nobody around me really looked mentally stable or like they had anything together in their lives. So as each person comes through, I'm just kind of hearing this voice like, look how these people are living. Look how good your life is. Look how amazing everything in your life is. You have such a great life, and you could be living like this. You could have these people's struggles and these people's problems. What were you complaining about? What were you fighting with your husband about? What did you turn your beautiful date night into? You dumb bee. And so I could have like turned this whole scenario into, oh, poor me, right? Like, I'm such a poor victim here by having this flat tire, and it's my husband's fault for fighting with me. But it's like, no, clearly the lesson was, you have it really, really good. amazing, in fact. You need to be focusing your energy on the gratitude you have for your life and stop the BS. You know what I mean? Like, this is ridiculous. Yeah. Here you are. Fun night. So it's like I'm being mocked almost, right? And I'm like waiting and waiting. And finally my husband calls back because he realized I'm not coming home, and he got this missed call. And he told me later, he's like, this guy answers the phone, and for a split second, I'm like, oh no, she's met someone at a bar. She's going to go home with him. And he says to the guy, I have a missed call from this number. Do you know who called me? And then the guy says, oh, no. Oh, it's probably that lady with the flat tire. And then my husband started feeling bad for me. And he got on the phone with me, and he's like, do you want me to come pick you up? What do you want to do? I'm sorry this is happening to you, because he's a sweet guy. And I said, I'm sorry, I apologized to him. And I told him, let's just wait for the tow truck and I'll figure it out, because I'd already called them and I figured they'd be here any minute. So anyway, eventually I did get the tow truck. He came. I was able to have my husband come pick me up from the tire place where we towed the car to. But in the meantime, I noticed the guy that worked behind the counter at the convenience store, he started feeling sorry for me. He started shifting his energy towards me as I was shifting my energy away from my anger and frustration and into my gratitude. I was grateful that place was open. I was grateful it was well lit. I was grateful he let me use the phone. He offered me coffee. I could have bought, other things. So I looked at my wallet, and I had a little bit of cash, $12 or something. And so I offered it to the guy. I said, I just want you to take this. I really appreciate you being here and helping me, and I wish I could give you more, but it's just really amazing that you're here helping me, because I thought, fuck, I don't have to be up all night till 5 a.m. working at a convenience store, I'm not in that situation, and I'm so grateful I'm not. And if I can pass on my gratitude towards him with a little tip, I was happy to do that. And then he really started feeling bad for me, and he said, I might be able to change your tire. Let me come look at it. And as soon as I'm done dealing with these customers, and he's getting one customer after another, and he's busy, he's cleaning, he's doing all these things. I'm like, I said, it's okay. I've got AAA. He goes, are they going to charge you? I said, don't worry about it. It's paid for. It's fine. And so I kind of teared up at one point, just feeling overwhelmed with gratitude. And instead of allowing myself to feel ashamed or go into that trap of judgment wound, I stuck with the energy of appreciation and gratitude, and just thinking, God's watching out for me. This is just a little blip. It's just a little warning, really, of don't allow yourself to fall like that, because here's what will happen when your vibration falls. The circumstances around you fall as well. It's all in that way lined up for our development, our growth in this life. Anyway, that's my personal belief. So that belief held me in a place of love and gratitude and forgiveness for myself and the little childish attitude I had earlier in the night that led me to this place. And everyone around me responded pretty well to that. I was able to call in all the help I needed, and my husband was really happy that I was home and just giving me love, and it was over. So I'm sharing this today to kind of illustrate what can happen when we aren't in control of the vibrational plane that we're playing within, because everything comes through vibrationally one way or another. And alcohol and the heavy fried food can create vibrational turmoil to your cellular structure in your body. And focusing on this negative, silly, immature kind of arguments or silly little disagreements, it just it's not worth necessarily what the consequences can end up being, because big picture, I was so lucky, went out for a beautiful date night with my husband. I have my awesome parents watching my kids, got to spend a bunch of money at a new restaurant and have a beautiful, safe, happy home to come home to and enjoy, not having to be in the predicament or the circumstances that a lot of these people all around me were that night. And still had people coming and looking out for me and helping me in that scenario. So anyway, this story has really stuck with me. It felt like a big lesson that came my way immediately. It was like the universe mirrored back what I was putting out right away, which is so useful if you really are looking for the message and the lesson rather than getting stuck in that emotional space of lack, right? Or abandonment or judgment in that way. So I really enjoyed sharing this story with you. I hope that it will inspire you to see these connections in your life in a deeper way as we're all growing and learning and enjoying this journey together. So I love you, and I hope that you have a beautiful day.